All right, so interesting thoughts going through my mind about forgiveness. And I was thinking about how the fear of forgiveness ultimately, the reason that we don't want to forgive somebody is because somehow we feel implicated. We feel implicated in the crime. And somehow forgiving somebody else might mean that we would say yes to the crime that had been committed against us. And we would say yes to understanding that maybe we have committed the same crime. So when we are afraid of forgiving someone else, it's like we're saying, no, not me, I didn't do it. No, not me, I didn't do it, and I will never do it. So I think that the biggest hang up on why forgiveness doesn't take place is this fear that somehow we are now free to be the transgressor. That now somehow, because we've forgiven someone who committed a grievous crime that made us, is like the very crime that makes us hate the most, that now somehow we're saying, yes, okay, now I'm one of them. Now I am on the side of these people who are so fucking infuriating. But the reality is we can forgive without being in agreement with the crimes that are committed in this world. And we can see where those crimes come from and what motivates people and why they do the things they do without doing any of them. But seeing the potential within us that exists to go down that road that other people choose to go down, yes, that also exists within us. But that does not actually mean that we will go out and do it. And forgiveness does not mean that we say, yes, I'm okay with all this shit, and that I want to do the shit too. It just means that you see them as a human being and you understand, you come to an understanding about their nature and really about your own nature. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is essentially always forgiveness of yourself, your own humanity, and the potential of destructive, all these things, the potential for things that have been, considered highly negative. These are all existent within the human soul, within all of us. So, and that carrying that burden can be very painful for somebody who is not fully looked at humanity and what we're capable of, because we're animals, we're in a hostile environment often, and we're here trying to survive essentially, and sometimes the means by which we do that end up being incredibly destructive and lacking insight and self-knowledge. And so just to reiterate, because I really want this to land in my own brain, because this is like a spark. These sparks have been going off in my brain. I've been having these insights. And so mainly it's like the reason I like recording it, because it gets it more firmly established in my own, consciousness, my own physic, you know, you know, nervous system, my physical nervous system, because the nervous system, what we learn is not just in the mind, it's our entire body, learns, and our entire body is actually an extension, of our brain and, who we are. So, my entire soul. So yeah, and communicating to the camera, it gets it into a different part of, of myself that I usually, historically have not communicated as much. So like, in a way, talking to the camera is like talking to the greater part of myself. The greater part of myself being symbolized by, the world at large, because, it's like the things that we hide from the world that are things that we are afraid of within ourselves. So yeah, I'll reiterate. It's funny how like I get this feeling of fear to even, restate what I've said, like, cause, what if I fuck it up somehow? Like, I don't know, it's like I get this panicky feeling. But anyway, I'll try to reiterate what I said. So, often the hang up that we have in forgiving others is this fear that we're signing off on the very crime that we hate the most, and that now somehow we are in agreement with it as a good thing to do, and that somehow, it's like somehow like secretly, like we've always wanted to do this shit, and that somehow we will see that, oh fuck, I'm just as evil as everyone else, and so like when forgiveness does not take place, it's often like this fear of like, oh no, if I forgive, then I will be my enemy. Not only will I, forgive my enemy, but I will become my enemy somehow in the forgiveness. And, there's a certain truth to this, that yes, you will see the potential that exists within you that caused that man or that woman to do the things that they did. But that, again, it does not mean that you are actually going to do those things. But, the potential exists within all of us to do, terrible things. And, making peace with that, that can be an extremely frightening thing, to see the potential of, what we call pure evil and, pure darkness. And so anyhow, feel, sort of invigorated and, a surge of enthusiasm flowing through my body. My lungs, I feel like my chest is vibrating. I feel sort of celebrational. I feel happy to be alive. Love humanity more than ever. I love, it's like, there's a lot of things that I hate and that piss me off, but it's not like I hate an individual. I don't hate a person. I think about all the people who I find extremely obnoxious in this world, but do I hate any of them? No, I don't. I don't hate any of them. And it's like, I even love them. Even the ones that I find most disgusting and despicable. But you can love someone who is disgusting and despicable, because in recognizing their disgustingness and despicableness, you're not lying. You're just acknowledging, hey, you're covered in shit. I love you, but you're covered in fucking shit. But, so, and it's sort of like, it's okay to say it. It's okay to fucking say, hey man, you're kind of stinky. It doesn't mean I don't love you. So, anyhow, I feel like in this I can love myself more. I'm more free to be whatever it is that I am. I feel more self-trust because, seeing the potentials that exist that are negative, I can see well, what is it that I really want to do? Do I want to do any of these destructive, horrible things? No, I don't want to do any of that. I can see the potential, but that doesn't, that's not what I want to do. I want to do things that I want to do, So, seeing the past, seeing destructive behavior is often like seeing the past. The past of other people's actions.
Can I add illustration to this?
Yeah.
You and I have observed people do, in an official capacity, from our point of view, three very bad things. Say very bad things, going completely against their unspoken Hippocratic oath to do no harm. We saw harm done. We witnessed it.
Right.
And done because they're overworked. Done because they're tired. Done because they're not altogether there. We don't hate them.
Right.
We understood at the moment why they did what they did. What drove them to it. Neither of us, well, I did, a bit, interface to say stop. When the button's getting pushed, not much to be pushed.
Yeah.
I said, stop. I had to say it 3 times before it happened. I said, this is not what I asked for. This was problematic. You caused pain here. Look, do you not see it? I asked for a pillow.
Right.
By the way, I went and searched for the pillow and was told by the head nurse they had no pillows. You said, let's buy a pillow.
Yeah.
I thought they're just going to steal her pillow.
Right.
This is in a nursing home. Well, I'm going to go to the head person and say, I will get a pillow and make sure it's stamped with the information. A woman that has a neck problem needs 2 pillows.
Right.
Always has, now there aren't. Unacceptable to not have a pillow here. I want you to buy them. I want you to have a surplus of them. And I'm going to say, I want it today. If I buy it and it's taken from me, I want there to be some sort of way that this gets imprinted in your brain is very important. I don't do this thing, and I won't allow myself to do this thing. It's a value system that's deep and dear to me. I'm never worried that I'm going to cheat someone out of their physical comfort that can't help themselves, nor are you. And when you saw manhandling done of people, I just put it that way, in this facility, you kept your mouth shut, you were shocked. But you don't have any malice, nor are you seeing it your business to solve the problem. Because you see, this world has, you were just saying, evil's being done by people all the time, and they don't even know it. If we carry that in ourselves, we're poisoned.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. And it's not our potential to do this. Oh yes, that potential exists there. We have free will. We can do evil if we want to.
But the question is do we actually want to, or do we just feel what's in the environment of like, it's like, don't you want to do this? Don't you want to do this? It's like, no, I don't fucking want to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your words today
Yeah.
just touched me all the way down.
Yeah.
And yesterday you said, with this face lit up, like you'd never had the thought before. I was looking. I couldn't find hate in me for anyone. It was like a revelation to you.
Right, yeah.
Now I've seen what kindness exists from you to human beings. One of the most compassionate people I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, you're expressive, and people, if they want to, can misconstrue that. But there's no harmfulness that I've ever seen come from you toward anyone. Ever. I've known you a long time. I know you don't want to do harm. But like you say, the field tells us that's who we are. That we want to do harm.
Yeah, you want to do this.
And we're accused of it.
Don't you think that it's like some delicious treat that you're going to get if you do these evil fucking things?
And like, we saw how people felt relieved when they did it in this facility.
Yeah, right.
But just because if that ever gets...
Yeah, and I saw their guilt and like regret and like the stone wall face of like, please don't see that I did this. Please don't see my sins. Please don't see how guilty I feel. But, it's just like, well, what else do you expect me to see? It's all over your face. It's in the frozenness of your your affect.
And just for if you publish this, there's one day that the highest level government official that would be qualified to come in to be doing evaluations and checking with people came in and asked, have there been any problems? And I said, so long as anything I say stays between you and me, and we let the system be what the system is, because we are not in a position to upset the apple cart to create adversarial feelings. We are not going to add that to an already difficult mix. But yes, I'll speak freely. And you spoke freely.
Right.
And my family member spoke freely. And the man cried.
Right.
Let me talk to people. As I said, I've already told you, no. You let your heart process this. Between you and God, you say the prayers. You take responsibility for how this has changed without putting someone down on the railroad track and tying them to it. And you get a claim that you did something good. No. Complaints often, when you're in an environment like this, make you seen as someone to kill.
Right. That's right.
We have seen people who complained be told they should go on to morphine because they're that uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And we've heard it with righteousness, where the people saying it said it with full conscious awareness of what that meant, where they were wrong. And then I have my mother that you knew. She was told, she needed morphine. Proud of her, when she came out of the morphine days, she said to the nurse, in a way I'd never seen her behaving before, she said, I want the truth, I want the total truth, I want the damn truth. Was any morphine given to me? The woman said no. And then she said, was any generic, other named morphine given me? Well, yes. Mom nailed it. She said, come here. And then she put her finger in the face. That will never happen again. I refuse. You've got my voice. And that one over there pointing to me, if he says so, okay. I do not want to die. I had to fight to get back to life because of that morphine. It didn't belong in my system, and I don't ever want it in there again. It was a beautiful moment of someone claiming their agency against a system. Just 2 weeks after that, a nurse came in and said, it's time to give you your shot of insulin. Mom didn't have diabetes. Insulin's not on her chart. She said, I don't have diabetes. Insulin is not on my chart. Mom was educated with regard to what insulin was for. She said, sweetheart, it's on your chart. I just looked at her. She said, go look again. My name is blah, blah, blah. Yes. She was completely put into a box of being someone that's not compos mentis.
Right.
Mom looked at me. She said, what do we do? And I said, I'll go get some grape juice and some other things. I'll document what happened, when it happened. I will tell her to look again with an insistence, but without ire. She will look, she'll see she made a mistake, and then she will be required to excuse herself from providing care for you hereafter. That's exactly what happened. She did give her the shot. I did give her the grape juice and some more sugar. She was not worse for wear, but we got to witness hubris. And I think that's, and you and I have been witnessing hubris for now, 3-4 months in another facility.
Right. Yeah.
But from their point of view, they're doing the fucking best they can. From their point of view.
Right, yeah.
You have said, you recorded it, that you are ruthless with yourself. What I would say it, you hold your values very, very dear. And you will not release your white knuckles off of those values. The things that are the positives that you want in your life. Which means you're going to run into the passion of detestation when you see it in someone, and you have.
Yeah.
But what you and I do is we talk about it with each other, and we don't engage with the criminals. And I think the word criminal is totally apt here. So this is real. People do evil, horrible, hurtful things to each other. In any way we put the scope on, we see it happening. What you're talking about, that you're coming to terms that you now see, you don't want to live under an indictment.
Right.
That you're guilty of a crime you're not guilty of and never will be.
Right.
But of course you have the choice.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to point to other people, you have a choice here. But we've come to be very reluctant to ever tell someone they have a choice to do good. That seems to be a battle cry for them. That's a war flag being raised.
Yeah.
To say that they can do good. What the fuck is that about? That's sort of all I have to say.
Okay.
What's your response to my point of view here? On the juncture of you talking about one of the most important things I've ever heard you talk about.
What's my point of view on what you just said?
Yeah.
Well, it just makes me feel a little sick, to think about all this stuff, that we witness. And it's not like it makes me sick, just the abuse that's done. It's like the guilt that people make themselves suffer for doing things, that they're not, like that their soul is in disagreement with, but they, they just sort of have lost their way and found their way into a system of, socialized sociopathy, essentially. It's like none of these people are sociopathic individually, and in a different environment they probably act completely differently. But when they're put into this environment where like the pattern has been entrenched so deeply, and there's like, it feels like an algorithm is running the system, and no one really is allowed to have any agency as an individual that takes responsibility for, okay, I have these values, I want to live by these values, but but it's like nobody who works inside of these institutions nowadays is really allowed to have that position. You're not allowed to be, the expectation is that, you are going to implement our rules or your ass is fired, And so, people are living under this constant threat, and with that, comes the, at each juncture, they're asked to like sell their soul a little bit more, okay, well, you can do, okay, well, what does it matter? It's just like a little bit of evil today, like, why do I need to get into a big fight about this? I don't want to stand up and rock the apple cart. I just want to survive. I have a family, probably, and I want them to be safe, and I want them to be taken care of, and they're my main priority. And like, I'm working in this place that makes me do evil things that I disagree with, but I sort of have to cover my own ass. And so, like, people are violating themselves, essentially. They're I don't know, and I don't really know what the solution for a person like this is, for a person who's part of an institution. And I'm not judging people who, decide to live lives where they're now no longer really capable, because what is taken from them is the ability to choose their values, their morals, and they're basically asked to be a person without values or morals while they're on the clock, and
do what you're told.
Yeah, and when you sacrifice such an important part of a human being, like, that's a difficult thing to live with for people. That is the status quo. Nobody that works for a corporation or some government institution or any other institution, religious institutions, all of them are asked to sweep shit under the rug that they really don't feel, is, passes the smell test. and they're expected to participate, and they sort of expect themselves to participate, and somehow they try to make peace with it, like, well, I'm just getting through the fucking day, and I don't know what to do, I guess I'll do this shit. But then it's like this builds up, there's a heavy price that you pay, and then you find yourself with why can't I experience joy? Why can't I experience happiness? It's because you're shutting yourself off for 8 to 10 hours a day, or possibly far more than that. You're shutting off your emotions so that you can do the things that you hate to do. And then, it's like, oh fuck, I wish I was like a kid again. So it's like, it's like everyone wants to go back to some innocent state. And, it's, making peace with, this horrible life that people are leading. I don't know how they do it. I'm glad I haven't had to do it to the extent, that others have, But, it's painful to watch people sort of transgress against their own, their own good sense, essentially. So I don't know, do you have anything more that you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think it's fun that we put a positive spin on things.
Yeah.
How well we do not get into a battle that harms anyone.
Yeah.
We don't even shame anyone. We look for how's the way to meet this with warmth inside ourselves, for ourselves. But the highest regard is what's best for the family member. So on that subject, I happened to go into the bank, and they asked me how she was doing. And I said, as a teenager, I'd never used the word fuck until she taught it to me, to see it as an emotional expression. What the fuck? Who the fuck cares? A lot of fucks came out of her mouth in terms of helping me know that I had facility to express all the different varieties of aggravation, shock, or disturbance as a quick draw. So I found a way to say this very briefly. I said, I know you've known my sister for many years, speaking to the woman who I just, before that, gave her condolences for the death of her husband. She asked how my sister's doing, shifting focus off of her pain, and I'm glad to do that. And I said, and I say this right in the bank, without any apology, because I don't want to censor myself. I said, the word fuck is one of her favorite words when she's aggravated. I'm sure you've heard her say, what the fuck? She said, oh my God, there'd be a new teller. She'd walk over to me and whisper and say, that new teller? What the fuck? She was right. What the fuck? Something goes off in my head every day. I love your sister. I love her honesty. I love her authenticity. Is she having to say fuck a lot? And I said, well, every day. And I'm so glad she has the word fuck as a tool that helps her take a shit, an emotional dump. Someone walks in, they talk to her, she tries to ask them a question, get their attention, and they ignore her intentionally. We see it. They don't have the time.
Right.
She has a question for them. I have a question. They walk out. She looks at us, grins, and she says, what the fuck? And I said, do you want me to go get them? And then she'd say, yes, would you please? So I'd go get the person. I said, if you're deaf, I understand I was once deaf. But you walked out of a room where someone said audibly, well enough that I, as a deaf person, could hear, I have a question, please. Hey. And you just walked right out of the room. They were talking to you. I sensed you knew that, and you just didn't want to engage because you had pressure to be doing something else. If so, just say, I'll be right back. If it's 10 minutes, at least you've made a commitment to come back. Please come. She wants to talk to you. And please make space, and don't be standing sideways looking at her as though you're ready to run out the door. And I see you do that with a lot of people. Please, this is my family. She wants your full attention for, give it to at least a minute. Then if you have to go, say, I have to go, I'll come back later. A little courtesy, please. This person got it. Came back in, stood squarely, and said, I'm here. She didn't say, what can I do? She didn't lead. She actually said, I'm here. My sister immediately got a soft affect. And my sister said, I so appreciate you coming into my room. I'd like to know if I can have another blanket. And if possible, I'd like it to be blue. Okay, she starts to turn. I said, she might have another request. I do. The boys haven't been able to figure out how to get that channel of ISBN, whatever it is. Can you do that? She said, I'll get your blanket and I'll get someone who can. Now we had a little more space for some responsiveness to people that are paying $15,000 a month for this room.
Right, yeah.
You know how much that is a day?
I don't know, but that's a lot of
It's
money.
like 500 a day.
Yeah,
Hilton doesn't charge you that.
yeah. Well, they
Full
might.
service.
Yeah,
And she's not getting, at this point,
yeah.
much
Right.
other service
Yeah.
other than food
Yeah.
and baths.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are definitely earning their money. They're underpaid and they're understaffed. It's the system. But it's upon me to say it needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
On this, I want to tell you one more. I think it was the day before yesterday. I saw two daughters of a 90-year-old woman that looked to be in their 50s and 60s. And they were looking at paperwork and they said, here it says comfort care. And the doctor said, we might consider comfort care. What is that? It looks confusing. I listened with keen attention since I was told that the doctor and the nurse practitioner are recommending comfort care for my sister. This was within like a week after they had caused an injury to her that kept her in pain. They caused the injury. Then they said, oh, it's to deal with her pain. I said, what pain? Oh, she's in a lot of pain. I said, let me get this straight. Let's walk to the door. There's my sister sleeping comfortably. Does she look like she's in pain? Well, if we try and move her, okay, so if you try and move her, are you moving her with mindfulness and going slow and letting her be part of the process so that you don't move her until she's ready? I've watched, you haven't. What is comfort care? What's the shift? Oh, well, we lower the level of care we provide in terms of there's certain things we don't do anymore. And we bring in a palliative care specialist and you'll talk to them. I said, that's often where you stop giving them water. What else? What's your medications? Oh, morphine and Ativan. Ativan being a benzodiazepine that shuts a person's mouth so that they don't say what the fuck. Morphine, I just got a call 2 weeks after I was told this by a fellow in Iowa saying they put my best friend on comfort care. He didn't know what he was signing on to. They gave him morphine and he was dead in 8 hours. My mother was told by hospice, well, when the time comes, we'll have morphine available. She said, what for? I don't want morphine. Can you put it on your chart? I don't want morphine. I don't want to die in a daze. I want to meet Jesus with my eyes open, inward, my spirit eyes. Mom couldn't be more clear. But they said to me, well, the morphine opens the airways, makes it easier to breathe. So death is going to be more comfortable because she'll be able to breathe.
Uh-huh.
So I saw it was her time. She announced that it was her time. I got my brother there. I got a dear friend that I've loved for 50 years there because Mom loved her so much. And I see she's going into the death throes. So I said, maybe now's the time for the morphine. So one of the nurses, who was about 70 years of age, said to me, they lied to you. She's told me she doesn't want morphine. Morphine doesn't open the airways. And then this is the nurse said, it fucking kills them fast.
Uh-huh.
The dose they would have in mind.
Uh-huh.
I said, you mean it's euthanasia? She said, exactly. We don't use that word anymore.
Uh-huh.
Well, so I saw these two women asking about this comfort care. They weren't told anything about the medications, which I said. I said it because they know I have a medical background. And I said, what medications? I said to the woman, by asking the nurse, I said, what sort of medications will these two women be expecting will be given to your mother? Any changes? She saw my eyes. She saw what I knew. I knew what was in her heart and her mind, that they give morphine. And she said, oh, that's completely up to the family. And I saw immediately with playing that card, she fully trusted they'd be able to convince those two girls of anything, that they would trust her.
Uh-huh.
Fucking murderer. It's not how you do it. You get the word murderer. I'm not a murderer because I choose to save lives, not kill. She's working along the lines of deciding that they're God. there are ways to let death take place without giving a little helping hand. I know of them. I know the field. I know that the family doesn't know what they're planning. I've talked with family members after these events and say, they didn't tell me they were going to give her morphine. So what I did was I alerted them with a tone of voice that said it's important, and I let it go. It's no longer my business. We got other fish to fry. It's happening every day in all the nursing homes around the country. We've seen it, and we carry the awareness of the sickness that has possessed people to overlook the obvious, that they are killing people. We heard the one woman said, why bother? She's going to die anyway. And then she manhandles her.
Yeah.
You said, just 2 days before, my sister said, you know, I know how to diagnose sociopathy, a sociopath.
Right.
How many sociopaths do you see in this place? She said, I've seen several. She's being humorous in part, but also,
Yeah.
you said, as the nurse walked out, I think I just saw a sociopath.
Yeah. That one was very clearly someone who's, along the lines of, a callous disregard and apathy.
Egregiously so.
And this one was not like learned, apathy and remorse and guilt, because like those people you can see have like this frozen look on their face of like, oh fuck, But
Yes,
for
they're
her it was like she's so like this was like someone who's like no real consideration for somebody else's life, and she's just kind of happy going about her day. She like moves a person who has like problems with her joints in an extremely like abrupt and cruel sort of callous way without like tuning into the person's needs, and she just anyhow. So yeah, you can see the sociopaths. I mean, they're not invisible. We see you.
I responded.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
without not letting anger
Right.
get there, but let humor get in there
Yeah.
to try and
Right.
lighten it. And I addressed her as a little girl. I said, little girl, if my grandmother heard bad words coming out of any of our mouths,
Yeah.
like I just heard coming out of your mouth, she'd be on us like flies on ship, putting soap in our mouth, washing it out. I don't want to hear another word from you like
Yeah.
this in this room, directed where these ears,
Right.
any set of them, will
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah.
Off with you. Go. She said, I'm trying to get out of here. And I said, leave now. And she took off.
Right.
I will mention that I believe in fear that she did not come to work the next day. She took it off last minute. Said she's taking the day off.
Right.
I think she was going to discuss it with her husband,
Yeah.
her transgressions.
Yeah.
The next day, she was ever so friendly, helpful, and is the word you use obsequious?
Yeah.
Slimy.
Yeah.
But really playing the role well. And but I see her laying in wait.
Right.
So for example, the moment a very hostile neighbor, that's a woman down the way, who gets very uncomfortable and has a window that she can open
Right.
to get air, complained when the door would close because she wanted to in some way make us less comfortable.
Yeah.
That woman, two beds down, runs her TV so loud we can't hear each other. Then we have the hall, so we don't have conversations. So we close the door. She said, open the door. So I opened the door, leaving it half-inch crack, because technically it's open. But this woman complained to the sociopath woman. Said, you are not allowed to close the door.
Okay.
And I said, guess what? I am. God gave it to me. And when that door's closed, don't you come in.
Yeah.
I just barked right back.
Yeah.
I'm warning you. I won't warn you again. The door has to be closed. Now, this is where my impulse was to walk away with giving her the finger. But I said, so be it. So I left the door closed with a half-inch open. It was open,
Yeah.
but now we can argue the subject for an asshole that really wants to, with her pride, uphold her patterns.
Right.
And you said something about the sunglasses. So you could get $10 million, but if you can't wear your sunglasses, something you're attached to,
Yeah.
and you decide, no, I don't want the 10 million. I want
Yeah.
my sunglasses.
Yeah, I want the
This woman
sunglasses.
wants her pride
Right.
more than she wants to be a good nurse.
Right.
I think I think you agree with that.
Right. Well, being a good nurse is not really anything anywhere near what she wants to do. So that's it. I mean, she's there because it's an environment in which she thrives, because the environment is like you shut off your feelings and you do what you're told. Well, for her, that's great because she doesn't have feelings that she needs to shut off. And she likes to use the rules to her advantage and manipulate the rules, and then, conveniently remember the rules when it means that she gets to swing her weight around and feel important and powerful. So this is the type of environment sociopaths will be attracted to. So you'll find, sociopathic people finding their ways into institutions, all over this,
We've seen it on the late night.
You see them in public schools and in schools, churches, and institutions, the post office. You'll see sociopaths more and more attracted to fill these positions because they're positions that are great for somebody who doesn't really care. So, people who do care, they sort of have to bury their soul and, grit their teeth and do it anyway. But, sociopaths are going to enjoy. They're like, oh, wow, this is like Adventureland. This is like a theme park. Like, I love this place. This is like death and destruction, and I get to feel powerful and, feel like I get to use these rules and then be the enforcer of these rules that are, counter to humanity. Great, sign me up for it. It doesn't matter, if it's a nurse or a teacher or a doctor or a psychologist or a surgeon or, a lawyer or whatever, or a politician. When you have a system where people aren't using, values anymore, they're not using their own good sense, they're, relying on the what do you call them? I'll pause it. The word is company policy. They're relying on company policy over their own, value system. So, that's what you end up with, places where, sociopaths it's like the ideal place for, a sociopath to just sort of like exist and be in their natural element. And anyhow.
So one thing on this subject that's really positive.
Okay.
I knew when we came to California to deal with this, because of years of familiarity, that me being together when we're in the nursing home,
right,
it fortifies us that we have a witness.
Yeah.
If you weren't there, I were to speak to anyone, they would just frame me as insane.
Yeah.
Use any words to demean any statement I make that challenges anything. And they hold when I say, I prefer, now that you've got her on this medication which dries out her mouth, that before someone feeds her, they wet her mouth, because she goes to eat and she has no saliva. Nobody's tending to that. All they need to do is say, your mouth's been open while you were sleeping. Let's give you a little drink of water because your mouth's wet. They said, well, that's not really what we do. And I said, it's what I want you to do. And I'm really good at getting what I want. I like to be tested on these things. It really, really appeals to me because it is part of your care profile for her status. Water offered to her to wet her mouth, given the medication she has dries it, and given the result is that she won't eat, therefore her death will be upon you. I'm certain you can find a way to get this done. The man leered at me. It was a reasonable request, well within what should be requested. I was alone that day. You weren't there. When you were there, if I went to someone, there was a witness.
Right. They'd be
The
more
willingness to act sociopathically independent of merit was far less.
Right. It's another person who's outside of the system who is witnessing, okay, now my behavior here is, being observed. And, if it's just my word against his word, then, no judge will really listen, or, no concerned party will listen. But as soon as there's another person there, it's going to be like, okay, now there's two, and they might, if they're in agreement about my bad behavior, then I'm in a little bit more trouble then I feel comfortable with. So I'm going to hedge my bets and try to like not, be too confrontational with the person.
Our minister,
Yeah.
when I was a child, said, he quoted the Bible, and somewhere it says that the Lord decreed that angels shall not walk this earth except in pairs or more. I now understand why.
Right. Because it's a dangerous fucking place.
And the odds of people going against two, because of that way it splits, it brings conscience in awake, and the sociopath that normally is without it.
Yeah.
Four eyes looking at him. If you count the third eye, that's 6 eyes looking at him.
Right.
Including their own conscience is wanting to look at him.
Right.
It seems, well, no, it's not seemed. It's been helpful. Yeah. It's been the way to keep her most comfortable, is having both of us as a team.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of families can't do that.
Yeah. Anyhow, is this where we leave it? I think this is probably...
It's all about forgiveness, and the one thing you and I agree about forgiveness is express the offense first.
And so it's like, I mean, the difficult, the question comes here, and I'll try to end it here. But like we've talked a lot about sociopaths, and do we hate sociopaths? Well, we definitely feel very uncomfortable, and we do feel a hatred that rises up within us. But do we hate them, like personally? Do I care enough to hate you? No, I don't care. I just want you to get, I want to be safe, and I want, preferably, I would like you far away from me and out of my way, because your way of doing things is caustic to my life. And so essentially it's nothing really personal here. It's just, I am, one kind of animal, and you're another kind of animal that's trying to eat me. And you know what? I have horns, and I will buck your ass if you try to fucking attack me. But it's, it really isn't.
Not personal.
It's not about hating your species. It's just that, we're not exactly the same. So anyway.
I think it's well said.
I'll leave it here on that note. Anyhow, have a good one.